And today's speaker, we have April Tinhorn. She's the CEO and founder of TINHORN Consulting, and she is going to speak on Indigenous communication, connection, and commitment. And I'm going to turn this over to April. I'm looking forward to this webinar.
Thank you, Heather, for that awesome introduction. Gamyun Yamal April Tinhorn Xichgen Hualapai Wamui Chanam. Hello, my name is April Tinhorn, and I'm Hualapai Navajo in Chinese. I come from Peach Springs, Arizona, but I'm joining you here from virtual Phoenix. And pretty much for like the past 11 years, TINHORN, my company, has been blessed to help the helpers. That's really in a nutshell what we do is, and we do that through our marketing, training, and connecting services. We tend to help tribal nonprofits, tribal governments, and entities that are uplifting us as Indigenous business owners. So blessed to be here with you all today. And before we start our presentation, Change Labs, can you please queue up the first poll question? I only have two, but I'd like to make sure I assess who's in the talking circle with me, because today is it's going to be interactive. Am I going to need a stop share? Okay, cool. We got it. All right. Well, we're going to get both questions at once then. So can you please take a moment to answer this so I know who I'm speaking with? For your business, do you provide services, products, both, or you're not sure? And if you could answer that, I really appreciate it. And then the next question would be, my business has been in existence for less than a year, 1 to 3 years, 4+ years, or it's in incubation. And as you see here, for us here at TINHORN, we pretty much have spoken fluent tech since the beginning. My background is I have a bachelor's and master's in computer science before I turned into an entrepreneur. And so, during the past, 2.5 years that we've kind of all had to shelter in, and our businesses really have had to go online, we've been extremely blessed to be able to help the helpers and getting you all online and helping you to connect, whether it's calls to action or just outreaching to people. So in our circle right now, we tend to skew, we're service provider businesses here with 73%. And for our businesses, all right, cool. We're like either 41% of us are 1 to 3 years, or 41% of us are 4+ years. I'm glad I asked this question because I totally thought the audience was going to skew a different way. Okay, service based and you're in business. Okay, cool. Thank you for helping me with that. So you already know me now. I was told that this presentation is meant to be a part of a webinar series. And if you were a part of Trisha's session, I believe she talked about building and identifying your ideal client. So I'm coming from the perspective that, okay, you know who your client is, and now what? Now what do I do as a business owner? So I reflected on the past decade. So thank you, Change Labs, for giving me this opportunity to take that pause and reflection moment. And when I looked at my business, because it was born out of my bedroom, my childhood bedroom back home at my home, my mom's house over in Peach Springs on the res. It's moved to Phoenix, it's moved to California, and it's come back to Phoenix. So I've been able to sort of look at how I built this business in physical and virtual spaces. And it really seemed to center on these concepts of Indigenous communication, connection, and commitment. And how we've been able to do that is I've kind of pulled out 3 broad areas that we're going to go into more detail. And the bread and butter, the life and death of my company, and probably yours, is building relationships. Especially during this time of not being able to physically gather, how we might have normally, gone to, normally, where would we be? We'd probably be in Change Lab spaces and their co-working space they just showed, right? And we'd be amongst each other, but we're in this virtual space where, as natives, that's what we always do. We take what we have and we indigify it and make it beautiful and make it awesome, make it work for us. And that's what we're doing now, whether we realize it or not. All of us, how many of us are on here right now? 20 plus people. We can build relationships with each other in this third space. So the next thing that we've been looking at is that by building our relationships, it builds trust. And that's also been one way to grow our business is without trust. Your clients become one and dones, right? They may stay with you, but if you didn't build that trust during the time you're able to provide your services or your products, then, it doesn't probably going to go beyond just that one contract or that one product. If you build trust, then you build relationships, you build community, you build value. And that's been another way for us to grow. And the other thing is then once you have that trust with your current clients, they can become your cheerleaders and your uplifters because we buy through recommendations, right? When my water heater kicked the bucket here, throwing it out to Facebook, like, hey, do you guys know any native plumbers or here in the Valley that, can help replace our heater? And I'm going to definitely take from people I trust their opinions and move forward with that versus just, a cold Google search. We also saw that by building value, that has been another mainstay of our company. So that's really the three pillars we're going to be talking about today. And I want you to know, I view this as a discussion. I definitely would, whatever your comfort level is and what your bandwidth provides you with, if you're able to, at the points when I think there's 3 points during this presentation. If you can unmute yourself, if you want to use chat, I definitely would like to get some, I'd like to find out from you all in your businesses and what's going on, so we can collectively learn about putting our finger in the pot. What is the Indigenous economy climate right now? Because it's changing all the time, right? So let's delve deeper into one of the tenets we talked about, which is building relationships. And that's, all about connections. I was thinking because there's some folks who are in the incubator phase or less than 1 year time frame in your business. And I remember that when I first started my business and I'm like, okay, so how do I get customers? I don't have a client base to pull from, day one. What do I do? And all of us have personal relationships. You can look into what existing relationships do I have? It can be in my instance, it was I'm going to go into my tribe. I'm enrolled Hualapai. So those were the first, that was my first client who I hit up. I looked into the different affiliations I had, being an alumni of Arizona State University. I'm let's go deep into, that network. We have established relationships there and a common interest, looking at professional associations. I looked into the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, being the computer science graduate, and also looking at I took it way back. Think about when you were younger, Unity, United National Indian Tribal Youth, basketball, all these different facets of your life. You can just start spoking them out and writing them down if you don't know where to start with your relationships. For the folks that are established in your business, the first part I would think of is your past and current client list. When's the last time you actually reached out to them? Maybe it's easy to think well, we're all sheltered in, but we can still continue to care for and foster our relationships. So that's one way. We can also, to help build our relationships, is, our website. All our communication should be driving traffic to our website because we control the narrative. We control what's on there. So your social media postings, your email blasts, your text campaigns, your flyers, your KTNN radio ads, all of that should be pushing your traffic to your website. And how we also need to be active on social. I was in a presentation where the presenter said, if your business isn't online by 2023, you're not going to have a business. And we can debate that, but I think there's some sound advice, because it looks like we're still sheltering in. It's not where we're fully, in person again. I'm sure we have all different types of businesses, but minimally, I really highly suggest that you have a solid presence online, that you have your website and you have at least at least one social media channel. And when you choose that, where you're going to be at social, I wouldn't necessarily advise you to look at what you're comfortable with and where you're at. But remember, we talked about earlier in the last presentation, and if you haven't seen it, Heather was just saying you can go to their YouTube channel to watch the identifying your ideal client. Think about them. Where is your ideal client at? So I'll share a story here. I'm most comfortable on Facebook, but really my clients are probably more on LinkedIn. And so that's, for 2022, I'm looking to vamp up our presence on LinkedIn. So something to think about. There's also value in joining groups, like before we might have met up in person, and now the meetup places are, your different social media groups. What groups are you in? Not like knitters, unless your business is you sell, knitted products, but where does that ideal client reside at? What groups are they in? And if you can't find a group, guess what? That's an awesome opportunity for you to create that group. And then you're attracting people who are already like-minded and probably would be interested in your products and services. Also, another thing to think about is using like email campaigns. Google's still king as far as like search engine optimization when people do Google searches. I would say if you don't already have a Google business page established for your business, that would be one of my tips, is for you to establish that. And that's helping you control your narrative already. You might be surprised that like you haven't set one up, but Google may have already created one for you. And that allows people to put recommendations and referrals for your business, and you'll get a star listing. And again, depending on who your clientele is, if maybe your clients, they actually want to have calls. During this time of us being all digital and online, when you get a phone call and it's not someone asking you if you want to extend your car warranty, maybe the people are looking for that connection. So I put that on your list, is to make a couple of client calls, and it doesn't have to be to sell. This is, could just be to ask how are things going, and then listen. Another thing that we've started doing over during pandemic is, since we can't meet up safely or as safe for coffee in person, we're scheduling, asking people to join us for coffee over Zoom. And it allows us just to have one-on-one to chit chat. But there's another example later on. We'll talk about that. Oh, wait, here it is, that example. So let's see, for one tip, a quick tip I would say about asking for a virtual coffee meetup over Zoom is, I've been doing this one, is I just set it up and then I ask them, hey, wellness check, how are things going? And sometimes, there's that awkward pause, like, what do you mean? Like, for my business, for me? And I just ask them, like, whatever you feel like you'd like to share. I'm literally just want to know like how you are. And that's how I've learned from past clients, like their pain points, because eventually they're going to come to like, oh, we don't know how to, set up our Square payment, or we don't know how to get our domain name registered, or whatever it's going to be. And then that's an opportunity for, to help the helpers. Another example of this that we've encountered is, on like Facebook, you'll see different groups and they're like asking like, hey, we need a website. Who do you recommend? And then people start putting in tagging businesses, right? And from that, this company, Project Mosaic, she went and showed up in my DMs, and she's like, hey, my name's whatever her name was, we'll just say Anne. My name is Anne. I noticed that we have overlapping services, because when people ask for recommendations, your company, TINHORN, shows up referred as well as mine. So she's like, why don't we just meet up and let's have a chat and kind of find out what we do? And so I thought that was cool. She took the initiative. She reached out to me and we set up a little 15-minute call, got to find out there was overlap in our businesses. We both provided strategic planning facilitation services. We both were in the tribal health and wellness spectrum of helping clients. And from that, we, I asked her, I was like, hey, so I can't always, client load, I can't always take all inquiries. How about we set up some sort of referral system to each other? And so it was a little risky since, we didn't really know each other, but we agreed on it. And because of her taking that initiative, I actually referred some business to her, but because of our agreement, I got a 3% referral fee out of it. So, new ways of doing things. Now, let's see. Second story I wanted to share with you. Another thing you can do to build relationships is ask in your circle, ask those who know who you are and who your business is, what it's about. Ask them to share with others about your business. I've seen this in other business groups that I'm in, but I haven't really seen it done a whole lot in Native groups. And so I'll share a story of that. When my business was first starting, I got a call from Tana'atam Legislative Council, and they were asking, they wanted to make a value-based purchase. They wanted to buy a website or have a website designed by a native web developer, and they didn't know anyone. Well, their attorney was actually my younger brother's cross-country coach back in the day, and he remembered that I was going to school at the time for computer science. And so he made that connection, and it just never, I guess it never hurts to just ask people, to help you. Hey, do you know of anyone right now who's in need of some training or some facilitation or a website or whatever your business might be? And that's how we got one of our first contracts was, through someone's referral, someone who knew us, and it wasn't even in a business setting. So we're going to have 3 exercises today. And this is going to be our first one. So go ahead and get out a paper and a pencil, or bring up your Google Doc, however you like to write and put things down. I shared how we can ask somebody to give a referral for our business, right? So I'd like you to take this. I'm going to put my timer on. Let's say we'll put it on for 2 minutes, and think about who are 4 people who aren't your family members, 4 people who you think would be able to make a good referral and connection for you to someone who actually would be interested in the services or products that you sell. And when you've identified your 4, can you put the thumbs up for me? And that'll be at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And I believe it's under reactions. So I'll give you a couple of hints or suggestions is, think about your current clients. Would any of them, would you feel comfortable in asking them to give a referral? How about your past client lists? Do you belong to any associations? All right, I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to ask, will someone please unmute yourself, and will you share one of the people that you identified and why you identified them as someone who could talk your business up to others?
I can go.
Awesome, thank you.
So I'm a Zumba fitness instructor, and the first person that I thought of is the girl who's been to my class 5 years ago and is still coming today. So she's one that could totally see my growth and see how things have changed in 5 years. Well, it's been 7 years. And she's the first one I thought of because she's been there and she has never left.
Hey, when you say that, that sounds like a great person to ask for a referral or a testimonial as well. Thank you, Eileen. Who else would like to share someone you identified who can talk up your business and why? So we have someone who's an actual client.
There's some in the chat.
Okay, thank you. So we got, hey, Roshan. She said, my current clients, venue owners where I shoot, my networking group members, and small business owners in my circle. Awesome. So Roshan, can you share with why you would ask one of these folks to talk up your business? Maybe while you work on that, I'd like to, is there one other person who would like to share who they would ask to talk up their business?
Jameis here.
Hey, Jameis. Sure can.
Okay. I make a product, and I guess one of the persons that could talk up my business is, I guess, prior clients that have bought my product. And I guess those would be my referrals. And I know on my website, people have bugged me about having those individuals post an actual, positive, I guess, comments regarding the piece that I sold them, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, but my former boss is my personal cheerleader also. So when I'm down in the dumps, he tells me to, man up and stop crying. So, which is hard. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jameis. I appreciate your candidness, and that's so true. It's helpful to have that support system. It's tough. It's tough being a business owner, especially if you're like a solopreneur. And so it's good to surround yourself with people who, not only like yes people, but I like to surround myself with like the realists and the ones I ask them, I'm like, please be honest with me, like feedback, positive and negative. It's only going to help my company. And I ask people that I know are coming from, they're similar. They want to see my business succeed. So I got some really tough feedback, like make your hands sweaty feedback from this group when we were doing a SWOT analysis 2 weeks ago. But I'm really glad that they gave that to me because I needed to hear it. I don't know how many of you can identify this, but it really simply boiled down to is like, April, you're blocking the growth of your own business. And I was like, ouch. And so, but it was good. I needed to hear that. So thank you everyone for sharing your feedback. I see in the chat, Roshan said for her clients, she would ask for that referral because she established a relationship or they established relationships with her and they've laughed together. And there's no better referral than someone who has experience working with me and loved their photos. So true. And I'll give a shout out to her as well. She's done a lot of, Roshan, you did all the pictures that are, you shot the photos that are in this presentation. So there you go, a little referral to you all there.
I think also just having, when you're identifying people that are going to speak on your behalf and vouch for you, I think it's important to also just take a look at, being very intentional about it in terms of, who you're targeting and then the possibility of, again, what their influences are. Right.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I agree with that too. And we've kind of had some discussions with my team on that too, because it's like, all right, we have, because of that, we're like, all right, so someone say like they never bought a product or a service from us, but then they reshare our posts or they always comment on our stuff. Or, we've heard during pandemic, like, oh, so-and-so, like a new client, I always ask, and I hope you ask this too, when you get a new client or someone who has interests in your business, I ask them like, how did you hear about TINHORN? And before pandemic, it was like through one of these cheerleaders that we've identified, again, someone who's not a client, but someone who will always refer us. So that's been a change in our strategy is we still want to keep them in the know and keep them a part of our TINHORN fam. Because before we're like, well, we don't want to, if they're not our client, maybe we just kind of cut them off the email distribution list. But for my business, it made sense to keep them in the know because they're referring us to other people, and those are those influencers. But it's case by case, right? Because like I know, like Constant Contact at certain numbers, or 200 or 400, it's like 400, 401, you get charged additional amounts. So it's a business decision that we all need to ask ourselves. All righty, I appreciate. So now we're gonna move to our second area about building trust. So when I was looking at,
I have a question really quick.
Sure.
So before we move to building trust, or as you're talking about all of these, these three components,
mm-hmm.
could you also speak to the sort of from the Indigenous perspective? How do you weave in the cultural piece into building the relationship? What are some best practices around that? The same with building trust or...
Thank you. I appreciate that question. It's going to definitely be, I'll just share from my perspective, because I've shared how I'm blended, right? Hualapai, Navajo, Chinese. And for each of you, that how your Indigenous culture and how you live it is going to be, specific to you. So I'll just share from my perspective and my lived experience for that. Honestly, the first part of that question began with myself and the ideas and beliefs that I had for me. The first one was, it's really, at first it seemed counterculture for me to promote my business. That was like a really, really tough one, a mind click, a mind shift for me. And then it was really tough to even talk to other, tribal nonprofits or tribal people, because I'm like, that's not something I was taught, like to like me, I, and all of that. But what feels authentic to me is this idea that we are helping the helpers. And so by me sharing the stories of how we're helping the helpers through TINHORN, that's where it clicked and it felt in harmony for me. Because if people don't know that we provide these services, then we can't help. And they may be looking out there for help. Another way, I'll just share some different things that we do. Like another one that's been tough in facilitation for me, facilitation and training is, the idea that, like to respect my elders, like to, if it weren't in a business setting, like there's times as a facilitator, you have a time, you have 2 hours, and then like, people can go on tangents. And it was really tough for me to stop an elder from talking. And one thing that I started implementing is I'll do a pre-meeting with my clients, and I ask them, this is business. You've hired me to facilitate, which is to make sure all items on your agenda are covered, and we conclude at this time. Like that's what my role is as a facilitator. So I'm going to respectfully ask you, may I, if we start going off a topic, may I stop the conversation and bring it back? And may I have your permission to do that? And I'm open to how we do that. So a lot of times so far, all the elders and the clients I've worked with, they've been okay with me doing that. They gave me permission beforehand. And I even share that, during those times to the overall audience. So it's having, I guess it's identifying what you've already encountered that maybe you think at odds with what you're doing as a business owner, and then coming up and adapting and shifting in a respectful way that feels right to you, because how you act as a business owner and how you treat others, it's always going to be with the reputation of your company. And that's going to attract or repel people from doing business with you. I hope that may have helped. So thank you for that question too. So in building trust, I guess I should add too, we've done other things when we facilitate like in-person things, like land acknowledgements, opening prayers and blessings, things that may feel that authentic to you. Those are things to also consider. I can even share one other real example with the client when we were working on a logo, and it was with a different Southern Arizona tribe. We were given kind of a cultural history of symbols and things that had meaning to them. And then we had produced some logo options, and it was a mix of different people that weren't in that first session. And we were told in this new session that we were not to use this. There was one logo that we provided, and it had a deer, I guess it had a deer dancer in it. And we were told why we as outsiders were not able to use that. And so, we respectfully heard that, and we removed that option. But even that can be kind of interesting. And I don't know how many of you can identify with that. Even in our own tribes, there's things like some people say yes, you can do it, or it's pronounced this way. No, you can't, or no, it's really pronounced this way. And so even I think in our own tribes or our own cultural groups, there's not even agreement. So as a business owner, I would say that's something to think about, and for your business, how you want to handle those situations and how you want to move forward with it. For us, we will always, as someone not from their tribe or their community, we will always respectfully defer to whatever the client suggests when it comes to cultural topics. And so that's that was a very interesting thing too, because it had to do with us being female as well. And then there's different ways that we look at it in my tribe, but I remembered that it wasn't for my tribe, it was for their tribe, and to follow their be respectful of their beliefs. And so there's a lot of interesting scenarios we've been in, but that's just one of many. So as far as talking about our experience in building trust, this is because we've asked, after 11 years, we've asked past clients, how would you describe TINHORN? And the trust comes up a lot, that we trust TINHORN. And I started to think, well, how did we really build that trust? And a lot of it has to do with, I think, some of the examples I just shared. But a big one, a very, very big one for us has been walking our talk and following through. When it comes time to providing our services that we're contracted to do, that's something that's really important for my business, is that we deliver on those contract deliverables. And a lot of times that has to do with being on time. Whatever the agreed upon date, there have been instances where, we haven't 100% delivered, but we've communicated during the process so that I believe people are aware and we've come to agreement. But I think following through and walking your talk is, as a business owner, is the biggest thing to build trust, because all of us have also been customers before, right? And when you pay for a service and it's not delivered on time, I don't know about you, but after that, I rarely will go back and use that same vendor, because that trust has been broken. There's a reason why I used my resources to purchase a service or a product, because I needed it, and I needed it at this time and the way we agreed upon. So that would be the biggest thing I would say, is to follow through. And this is another thing even too, is just following up with emails, and I'll be the first to admit that is going to probably be one of my ongoing things that I really need to, the big things, the contract deliverables, they get done, but the simple ones that I feel are simple that tend to fall through the cracks are following up with emails. Think about all the people that have communicated with you, even during pandemic. They've shown up in your business DMs, in your email inbox, Maybe they actually wrote you a letter. They dropped something off at your house. You saw them in passing at the post office, and they asked for something from your business, whether it was like your website, send us a quote. Can you send us a list of your services? Whatever it was. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll get that to you. And then just think like, dang, how many of those did I not follow up on? That begins the deterioration of trust right there, and so many missed opportunities. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say for building trust. The other thing is that when you have it's one thing for me to say as a business owner, like TINHORN is the best, if I said that, versus someone else saying, TINHORN provides the best websites, for instance. It holds more clout and trust coming from someone else, because I'm self-promoting over here, and anyone can do that. But for someone else to basically vouch for you, that's also how you can build trust with people who don't know your business. Because we are living in this virtual space and doing business in this virtual space, I would say recommendations and referrals and ratings are so important. So how can you get those? We talked about your Google reviews to have your business up there. For those of you that do maybe the products ones, you're a vendor and you do business on Facebook, are you aware that you can also request Facebook reviews and ratings? There's also Yelp. There's, I think all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, they all have ways to provide ratings for your business. And also you can start asking for testimonials and reviews. If you're active on other platforms, do that as well. I would say, if you use Yelp, like to use that. If you're in the travel industry, I think like Expedia, Orbitz, just whatever, where just think of this, like wherever your ideal client that you've identified, how and where would they go to find your business? And that's where you would want to have your referrals and your ratings. I think also as a business owner, sometimes it's tough to just ask someone to give you a referral or a rating. And so there's ways to do that. Like, you can create a QR code that will take them to, you also want to make it really easy for them to get that, it'll take you to your Google review site. You can do QR codes for the same thing for any of these other platforms. Another way is you can start telling your own story by speaking like this. I'm in front of you all, I'm sharing, there's a topic to be had, right? There's learning opportunities here, and I'm doing it through stories, TINHORN stories with our different clients. And after this, I'm not a stranger anymore. TINHORN isn't a stranger anymore. And that's the building blocks, right, of trust. You can also start your own blog, look for other opportunities to be a speaker, to be a presenter, to get in front of people, because the organization, in this case, Change Labs, right? In essence, they are vouching for TINHORN because they've hired us to come and give a presentation. So start thinking of other ways that you can do that as well. There's also ways through press and media to get your story, your business out there. And I think we talked about this, reviews by others. So an example here would be TRIA, which is a part of the Native American Development Corporation out in Montana. They were a client of TINHORN's, and we did a social media campaign for them. And so at the end of our contract, as we're finishing up, our contact Tim, he was just like, oh my gosh, you and Lisa, you were so helpful on this project. And he started telling us all these positive things about the services that TINHORN provided TRIA. And in that moment, yeah, it's a feel-good moment, but it lives and ends there, right? Between him and I, through that verbal conversation, but how it can live on and to help be seen by others, to help build trust to the public, is by asking for a referral or a testimonial. So we asked him, and just wanted to give you a screenshot of what that looked like. This is the the testimonial he gave for Tinhorn. You see a 5-star rating. We got what Tinhorn helped us achieve exactly what we were looking for. Talks about the project, time frame, a summary. Like, wow, he gave a lot of information here. So that was very, very helpful. So how can you ask for a testimonial or review? The first step I'd say is ask. I think you identified 4 people, right? In the previous exercise. I mentioned you want to make it as easy as possible for that person to get that review up for you. So I would say go ahead and already find where the link is. Like in this instance, I'm asking for a Google review. So you can go Google your business and I'll have a review section. Click on that and copy the URL. And then you can either send that URL to them, or you can create a QR code, which is even easier. Then they don't, mistype anything. And when you ask somebody to give you a review or a testimonial, be specific on where you want it. Is it Yelp? Is it Google, Facebook, or somewhere else? So let's go ahead and here's our second exercise. Will you please bring up your Zoom chat and put your business Facebook link, your URL, your handle in the chat? Not your handle. Let's put your actual, the actual address. And like this would be the exercise for the next. Let's do this for the next 2 minutes. We'll go ahead and put your business in chat and then pick at least 3 different businesses to follow. And then can you comment something on their 3 of their photos? This will help their SEO rankings. It'll help them be visible to more eyes. So I got the timer going.
Did you say you want the Facebook link or do you want the actual website?
Facebook.
Facebook, okay.
Mm-hmm. So since Jernin, if I said your name right, so they put theirs up here already. So this is what we would do.
It's pronounced Gernin, but
Gernin,
like Vernon, but with a G.
All right. Hey, Gernin.
Hi.
So I'm asking you to like them or whomever you want to. And let's comment on 3 of their photos. And let's see what else. Oh, my daughter loves stickers. Maybe I'll say, how do I get one?
April, this is
a
question.
Sure.
So I apologize. I don't have my video on. I'm on the res and my internet needs as much bandwidth as possible. But my question is, I'm working more with government entities, and I know it's important that I have a website, but I'm still in the startup phase there. But I eventually want to have a website, social media for the business so the community can see what I'm working on. But that has not been created yet. But I'm kind of curious, in your work, when you're working with governmental agencies, with, I guess, exclusive government work, do you think the website and social media is just as important if you have a business that's providing services directly to people and other businesses?
So let me just make sure I understand. So correct me if I'm not. So you're saying for the value, you're asking a value question. So having a business website and business social media, is it just as valuable to have it for other business to business versus just business to government? No?
I think eventually I definitely want to be doing services to people and other businesses. But I right now I'm working more directly with the government and also the tribe. So it really is leaving out the people, the masses. But I don't want it to be like that. I eventually want some of our projects to really be online, and I really admire some entities, nonprofits, organizations like Dig Deep and Water is Life, those organizations that I've kind of emulated myself after, but focus more on solving problems directly with the government and the tribe. So I'm just curious, I haven't really worked on the website, but the government officials that I talk to, it seems like they don't really care about that. But I'm wondering, at some point, is it absolutely critical to make sure that all of that is up and ready and developed?
I would say so. What I'm hearing is, well, I would say yes, because unless your business is exclusively just with the federal government, by not taking into all your customer types and what they're looking for, you're excluding everyone else. So perhaps something you might do is think about leading the journey, like for your website. If you said you have federal government contractors and they're looking for your DUNS and your NAICS codes and all these, other things, right? Maybe at the very beginning on your landing page, you can have something, a tab, maybe just for federal government or federal procurement or whatever makes sense for them. And then you could create the website. I would do this will be how I approach it is I start off all of our client websites with a strategic planning session where we go over big picture, why have a website? Who are you trying to talk with? And then your ideal clients, and then what are they looking for? And then organize all the content based on what all your audiences are looking for, and then create paths for them so it's easier for them to find the information. Does that help?
That does. Thank you very much.
You betcha. Cool beans. So we got here Navajo Expressions, Arts and Crafts.
This made me realize I have not updated that page. Is that bad?
Hey, go do your roots. Color your roots. Hey, talking to myself here. Yes, it's always good to keep it updated and fresh. So let's do some Zumba. Like that. And then this other one is the Air Art Bonnet. Art Bonnet, are you on Facebook? If you can unmute yourself or chat. Are you on Facebook, Art Bonnet? But see, this is how we can help each other and uplift each other so we can, our businesses can be seen. So this is one way.
Yeah, this is Jameis. Yeah, I am on Facebook. Art Bonnet, aka Jameis Perry. So I'm not tech savvy as you guys are, so I kind of have a hard time leading people. I just have a basic website, and just people call me for stuff. So thank you.
You're welcome, and I know I think you said you don't have video on, but we're looking at your Art Bonnet Facebook page. I found you, a determined Native woman. Found you.
Yeah, there you go. NSA will love you.
All righty. So cool beans. We'll go ahead and if you want to change labs, would you be able to afterwards grab everyone's business handles and perhaps send it out to the group or provide it in a way that people could follow each other's businesses afterwards?
Absolutely. Everybody add it to the chat window if you'd like it to be included in a follow-up email.
Right. And that's how we're going to help uplift each other's businesses so we can be seen. How Mark Zuckerberg is with his algorithms now. He doesn't want anything to be seen unless you pay to play. So we're going to try to sneak each other in. Hey. So let's keep it moving. Our third area we're going to talk about today is about building value. And really what I saw is as long as we're building our relationships, building trust, and innately we're building value for our clients and for our business. That would be, just doing what you say you're going to do. I've been having a conversation with a good friend who came from IBM, and he just keeps pounding this into my head. He's like, are you thinking about the customer experience? Are you thinking about their experience? And so, because of that, I'm thinking now, go beyond and think of your customer's experience. How easy was that? How did we make it easy? How did we make it enjoyable beyond just delivering the product, right? Beyond, doing and saying what we were going to do, but just think about their journey and how can we make that either more efficient, more enjoyable, whatever's going to be like the carrot for that client, so we can help make them a repeating client. Because as you know, that client acquisition, it's especially if you work in Indian country. I mean, I think, my goodness, like real example, I had a new client in December. They said, I met your company at the Arizona Tribal Legislative Day in 2019, and they still had the coaster. It's not my coaster, but the drink coaster. I had your coaster on my desk. So that was like almost a 3-year turnaround. And I'm curious, I'm wondering from you all if that's kind of not unusual for the, that turnaround time to sign a client. But I have a myth buster too that just happened. I had, for the first time in 11 years, I had a client sign, like they contacted me and they signed the contract and sent payment in less than 24 hours. That was a December 31st client though, who said they needed to, spend that money in that calendar year. So I guess it is possible, but that's been my experience. That life cycle is pretty long in Indian country. Let's see, again, following through when you're connecting with people and connecting them to the resource or person you said that they asked for and you said you would deliver on. Let's follow through when setting up our appointments, and more importantly, let's show up. Let's show up on time. Real talk, I use calendly.com, and that allows people to set up appointments with me. So like if someone were to say like, hey, I want to learn more about this, like let's meet up and talk. Now I just have a link. I have all the times and dates of when I'm already available. So I've kind of streamlined it. Wednesday, I think it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my days to take new client meetings or potential client meetings. So that's on that calendar. They go to the link, they pick whatever time and date on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it shows up on my calendar. Well, if you're going to do that, make sure you're there on time. Because I think I waited like 15, 16 minutes for the person to show up. And, we were, it definitely, it starts the relationship off in not a positive note, but people are, they're assessing things all the time through our actions. And as business owners, we definitely need to be the ones on the up and up. Follow through on your calls. So if anyone hasn't reminded you, this is maybe it's just for me, but I'm like, April, you need to call back and look at all those voicemails. Shoot, let's not even talk about inboxes, right? But how about on our emails? Just again, doing what we say we're going to do can always add value. All right. So this will be our third exercise for today. I had another business coach who said this. So it really doesn't cost us anything but time. And we don't even need any current clients to do this for those of us in incubation phase. So she challenged me to make electronic introductions and to have it scheduled monthly on my calendar. She's trying to get me to schedule it weekly, but I'm at the point where I know I can commit to monthly. And literally all it is you want to be seen as someone who, like in my case, I said, right, we connect people, but you want to see bringing value to people. You don't want to be seen as someone who's always selling, right? So what she said, the exercise is, it's to basically you want to connect to people that that because of that connection, you think something positive and beneficial will happen for each person. And before that might have been inviting them to go have coffee, right? And then introducing them. But for today, it's probably going to be through emails or a DM. And this is a way, once you do that, then you're seen as someone who there's so many benefits from this, is then you're seen as someone who knows different people, you're connected, you're seen as a helper yourself, because now you remember hearing this person say they needed help with this, you had heard this person say they need help with this, and if you're connecting them and those two people can provide resources that they both needed, now you're seen as a problem solver, as a value add. And it's not to get business out of it, but it's really just to it's goodwill put out there. And these people, eventually they might become part of your referral system. So an example of that would be, I like to always start off as different ways to reach out to past clients where I'm not doing a direct sale. So I was thinking how we just came out of election time, I was like, so there was a past client, Native Voter Alliance of Nevada. And I was thinking, okay, so they're out in Nevada doing all of that work. Then another client, 7Gen leaders out in DC, they uplift specific candidates that are looking for 7 generations down the road. And then I started another good friend I saw on Facebook. She had just at that time, she was in a new position with, I think, the National Democratic Party, and she was their first Native American liaison. So I'm like, okay, what do they have in common? I know they're all good people. They're all doing great work, and they're kind of all in this political advocacy space. So I thought to myself, I don't know if they know each other, but I think they should. So I went and did, I think it was even at Facebook Messenger. I went and put all 3 of them in there. And I said, hey, but I'm just thinking about you all, and I think you all need to know each other. And I just put a simple, Mel or Willie, put tribal affiliation, like Navajo, from this group, 7Gen leaders, and then a short sentence about what he does. And I did that for all 3 of them. And I said, now that you all know of each other, I was like, I'm going to gracefully bow out and let you all, work your magic, go make something great happen. And that's the way you can, an example of how you can connect people. And then you're seen as a resource because you're bringing value it's not a cold call, like selling something, but you're still showing up in their feeds, and you're going to be at top of mind. And then they'll start thinking about you when I need something. You want to be seen as someone, when someone needs something, that they're going to come to you because that's value for your company. For our third exercise, what we're going to do is just like that example I just gave, take a moment and think in your circle. I mean, it could be as simple as thinking of like maybe 2 of your past clients. Think about what they do and how they might be able to help each other, or think of some recent conversations you've had with people who said, like, I need a plumber, I need a heater, or I need whatever it is that they needed. And start thinking about who you know that you would refer them to, and then just connect them. And you can do that by emailing them or doing a social media direct message, however you have their contact information. It could be a text. So let's go ahead, because I'm all about let's have action, because if not, it just becomes another to do. Let's go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock for this one. So I'm putting 3 minutes, and this is our exercise. So take that moment and identify 2 people who you think should meet electronically, and you can connect them. Does anyone have questions about this before we start?
I have a question.
Sure.
Identify 2 people who you think you should meet, but it's not that. It's who you think should meet. So are you talking about us being like a matchmaker in our industries?
In a way, a help maker. So tell in your mind, what would be your example?
I'm kind of wrestling with it, but I could imagine, like, I've been involved in a lot of these government political meetings with like the state and the tribe, and I can imagine some of these big infrastructure projects that are not being addressed because we have limited resources of companies that can perform some of these actions. I could imagine some of the other nonprofit organizations or some of the other organizations that I have admired and drawn inspiration from with my company. It's called Water Peak Partners LLC. I could imagine myself reaching out and connecting with some of those other nonprofit organizations that are doing some amazing work on the Navajo Nation and say, hey, I was at this meeting. You should connect, with some of these elected officials. These are some of the issues that they're a priority in their area. But the Navajo Nation's ultimately picking some other projects. But those projects are still available, and there is funding for them. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it could be that. That's a lot of detail. So maybe in these two organizations, do you have contact, like an email for both for two people in each organization, and then connect them?
But I've been really, I've been really careful, because it seems like when there's lots of money and projects, there's always so much litigation going on. So it's hard to move around sometimes.
Okay, well, think about in recent conversations, this year, who are like two different people, who's someone you heard who said, I need something, or I'm looking for this, or I'm having trouble with that.
Okay, so I can imagine some of these like Senate committees on like infrastructure.
Okay, can I pause you real quick? These are people you personally know. So let's bring it down to like people you personally know, and they're just two people that you think person A needs something or has something, person B needs something or has something, and they could both benefit from knowing each other. You don't have to solve anything. It literally could just be that, like, hey, I know like you do this and you do this, or you've asked for this, or you need that. And I'd really like to introduce you guys, because I think great things can happen from this. Just got a feeling.
And then the purpose of this is just to, I guess, just reciprocate, connections among our people, and it's just to kind of network build. Is that what we're doing?
You can look at it in many different ways. So for those two people, you're helping people with something they need, right? And so you're providing value to them because you're providing resources or a connection. And then for yourself, it allows you to have touch points with these two new people, right? And so instead of saying like, hey, I'm providing a website logo rebranding special, and you sent 2 emails to these same 2 people, instead of just making contact through a sale, you're doing touch points with them and providing value to them. And it would be about them connecting, but more than likely, because you connected them, they're now going to initiate communication with you. And then that allows you to start having a more authentic conversation. And it's not just about sales.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Or not really?
No, it does. And I think I'm kind of doing a lot of that right now to get to the point where I'm at now. So I think there was a lot of kind of not negotiating, but connecting with people to gather more information about what I'm doing. So I do think I've been doing that, but I think there's more opportunity that I could take here, because I think that I could help more people, and hopefully that would reciprocate and bring business back to me in the future.
So I guess I'll say what I heard you say is you're sharing information about you. Let's flip that part of this communication, and it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the 2 people you're connecting. Like you truly see there's something that they can help each other with. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear. And I just was getting confused because I was thinking like, well, I'm not in that industry, but then I kind of was thinking about it in a different way, that I could be just genuinely helping some other people that could be connecting. So just being I don't know what the word is, not good Samaritan, but
it's just really, to me it's like building good karma, because when you put out, it will always come back to you. That's what I believe. It might not come back right now or in the way you want it to, but when you put that good, when you're a helper and you put good stuff out, it's always going to come back to you, and it helps build your reputation in a positive way. And hopefully that will, like if we lead with our sales all the time, I know for me as a customer, when someone just always sends me stuff about like their product or their, there's nothing ever personal with it or thinking about like me as a customer, I tend to just unsubscribe or not take their calls. So I guess this is part of not just only value, but it's building that relationship. But I think you hit it on the head when you said like being kind of like that good Samaritan. It's more of that idea of like connecting people and being seen as a helper, because then it helps you see, like the unsaid thing of it is like, okay, people who are, experts in these areas, or they provide value, and, what do they say? Birds of a feather flock together. So it also reflects well on your reputation and ability as well. Does anyone want to share who they went and connected and what made them think of these people? You don't have to say names. You can just kind of describe.
April, real quick on that last topic, and the beginning question of how to indigenize our who we are and set us apart, that's a concept that's probably not looked at in other areas, sharing contact, because it's a competition out there. But for us, when you think about Native people, Indigenous people, we want to share the wealth, share all of it. So I thought that was really cool about how it actually tied into our beliefs as Indian people.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All righty. Would anyone else like to share? All right, we got some comments. What are we? How are we on time? Okay. I would definitely like to, we have 9 minutes left. So I would like to ask, so that was our last exercise. And I wanted to give some time for anyone who has a burning question. And I would like to tap into the value of us as a group. Definitely, I'll give my experience or thoughts on that, but I want to tap into the wealth of experience and knowledge of this group as well. So when you came to this session, is there a burning question you have that hasn't been answered yet?
For me, I think the one thing that I've struggled with is motivation to outreach. I teach locally, I teach in person, but because of the whole shelter in place that we've had recently, I haven't taught in 2 weeks because of the whole mandate. But when you said that earlier too, you kind of get that comment that kind of makes you cringe and makes you kind of, but I don't want to, I'm comfortable here. I taught Zumba for almost 9 months. And to go from teaching live for the past almost a year now, to go back to Zoom was kind of like, but I don't want to. So I think my motivation, and that's why I attended this, is to get motivation, because I know you and I know your style, and I know that I would get a lot of good ideas. So that's the one thing that's a struggle every day, is motivation to seek out and to reach out and to just keep going.
So what kind of has been a game changer for me is like I get stuck all on my feelings and my thoughts about that. Like, I don't want to be that used car salesman, like making contact. And what kind of helped flip my thoughts was like, but what if instead of thinking of like how I feel and all of this, what if I think about there's someone out there who really needs what I provide? And if I start thinking of that, like, again, helping the helpers, then that really kind of charges me up. So like, even before this presentation, like we've had 2 deaths in my family, and so that's been going on. But I went before this presentation, I went outside and I went in, let the sun hit me, took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and I prayed. And I just said, please, I was like, please, God, just guide me, speak through me, whatever it is that someone needs to hear, use me as that instrument. And that's how I showed up. And it just helps recenter me, higher power, creator, whoever it might be for you. But for me, that shifts me. And it's just like, I am an instrument, because I know that my purpose here is to help others. And so that helps me shift.
Hi, this is Denise McClellan. I am the co-founder of Navajo Expressions Arts and Craft, and that resonates with me, that our gifts and talents become about helping others and making change. And one of the motivators that I've had is just going with my gut feeling, not really making like haste decisions, but making decisions that feel right to me, and just being very aware of like challenges that are ahead and being in the midst of strong, influential women. And that helped me to find purpose, because looking at their values, and I'm kind of emulating that. And that has kind of driven me to be the person who I am, and as a business owner as well. And so just listening to like everybody's stories and how diverse they are, that makes, I guess, our businesses more interesting as well. Mm-hmm. And I really compliment you. And I know there's a lot of times that even as business people, we kind of find ourselves in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
But and then even the lack of words for communication at times for me is there. And I know a lot of you can kind of relate to that as well. So I just wanted to say that thank you for all of your input. It's been very insightful, and I do see the strength in all of you as business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I want to share one last thing before we break. So this will be just to think to yourself, what do you know now that you didn't know before I shared my story? And that'll be some reflection you can have maybe over lunch after this. But I wanted to definitely say thank you for allowing me to create this space with you where we could, as business owners, be real with each other and share the good things and the bad, or the good, the bad, and everything in between. Because this road isn't for the faint-hearted. I see you. And I am so glad that you're still in it for whatever reason that you provide the service or products that you have. So I welcome you to continue to stay connected with us at TINHORN. If you see this QR code on your screen, I heard some folks say they're not so savvy. So you can get your little smartphone, click it to your camera, the camera function, and use it to get the QR code in your screen, and you should see constantcontactpages.com. Just click on that, or click on the QR code, and it's going to take you to a web page that allows you to opt into our newsletter, and where we at TINHORN, we share our tips, our lessons. We also share like what's going on in like Indian country that we're aware of, and it just helps you keep connected with us. And as we shared earlier, as business owners, a lot of times it is a lonely journey. So I welcome you to be a part of the TINHORN community. And I've left my information here, which is my email, phone number, and our website. We're pretty active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we need to add our YouTube because we have our Eat, Learn, and Grow series on there. So again, I appreciate and honor everything that everyone shared today. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that it was a good investment of your time. And thank you, Change Labs, for what you do for us as Indigenous people.
April, that was a great presentation, and thank you for your time. I shouldn't say donating. Thank you for donating out of your experience and giving us some knowledge ahead. And I'll be sending you a follow-up email in a little bit, so just FYI. And I just wanted to share with everybody else a little bit of an announcement that we have, announcements that are related to Change Labs. As I've stated before, we are looking for a couple of people to hire for the community advocate and also communications and brand manager. If you're not sure what that means, the job descriptions are on our website. And if you have any questions or you want to know when the Change Labs YouTube link to April's presentation is up, you can always email me. If you'd like to share it with somebody, don't hesitate to press the share button when you've gotten a link to the video, or forward it to people that you know. And yeah, everyone, hope you have a great afternoon. Enjoy your lunch if you haven't eaten yet. And we will update you. Keep watching our website, Facebook page, and also various social media outlooks for our upcoming webinars. There should be a few in March. So we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.